Stress, a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. That's the actual and literal definition of, well, the type of stress that, I'm talking about, which is, the emotional stress, not the physical stress. Though, of course, everyone has to go through stress and has to deal with stress, at least, well, not even at least once. They have to deal with it for a lot of their life. A lot can say that life is stress. I mean, life sucks, but what can we do about it? Um, like, I know that everyone deals with it at this point, because after leaving 2020, that horrid year, um, and going into 2021, everyone is emotionally burnt out. Emotionally, but both emotionally and physically, right? Um, we're still recovering from that, but a lot more people, well, no. Whenever we're trying to, rebuild society and trying to go back to the way that things used to be, that requires a lot more work than what we can produce. Um, it requires a lot more energy than what we have, and that leaves a lot of people mentally drained and physically drained, both. I can say that I'm both. I really needed this spring break. Well, of course I'm on spring break right now, but that's outside of the point. Stress, everyone has to deal with it. Now, what it feels like to me is like it feels. Of course, it feels like the physical definition, which of course is, like, let's say I have a bar, right? I bet you a lot of people know this, but I'm gonna just tell it anyway. I have a bar in my hands. The more I bend it, the more stress it will cause in this certain amount of area. Well, let me just give you the definition right here. Uh, the physical definition is pressure or tension exerted on a material object. Of course, so like a bar being bent. More stress is being, applied in the center, and whenever I apply enough stress, it breaks, right? So now I have two bars. Um, that that's why I say that it feels a lot like the physical definition, or why I'd say the mental definition is very, very similar to the physical definition, because I guess it feels the same way as, what it sounds like. Um, it's like stress. How people get it, it's like, well, like the definition says, um, a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances is where it's where well, I don't know how to put it. It's you hmm. Let me just make up a scenario. Why not? Let me just make up a scenario. Um, let's say I'm working a job, right? I am or my job is to, well, I'm working uh, in a wood shop. I make items for schools and, well, basically whoever wants something to be made. And I am making 25 lockers for this one school's basketball team, right? Uh, but something happens and I got to do another thing besides that. But the deadline of those lockers is coming in, um, and it feels like, well, I gotta hurry it up and make all those lockers before the deadline ends, but it stresses me out. It feels like I'm bending myself and I'm fixing to break. Like a bar. Well, of course, I don't, I don't work in school, or yeah, I don't work in school. Well, I mean, I don't get paid, but that's not my job. I don't have a job yet. I'm only 15, but um, basically, whenever I start getting stressed, I shut down, right? Now, other people, they can have their own reactions, but what I do, I shut down. Just have a, I guess, full depressive episode, and I lay in bed and never want to wake up, right? I never want to get out. Now, my mama, she sweet, she's a really sweet lady. She can tell whenever I'm feeling stressed out, and she'll take me and just we'll go out, me and her, alone, right? Like we'll go out to a big city nearby and go to the mall and shop and whatnot. I can spend all the money that I earned, and by then, that's my escape. And after that, I'm all good until I get stressed out again and I need that, like maybe a few months later. But that's basically how I deal with it. But how I saw others and like how they deal with stress is that whenever they're stressed, they tend to do a lot of things, or they tend to be going through a lot of things and having to do a lot of physical or mental work, right? It's like, well, let's use the wood shop example. Um, my teacher, well, of course I'm in workshop, but my teacher, let's say he did have to do all them jobs and had to build all them lockers, he would have been stressed, right? And he, but he had to try and keep on going and doing all this stuff before the deadline, before the deadline gets there. But he never stopped. Yeah, he never stopped. He never stopped working. He never stopped moving. He never stopped to take a break. Right? That's how I figured out how to deal with stress. See, if any of you watching, the 3 views that this video is going to get, if any of you are watching, I bet you some of y'all are out there, y'all are dealing with stress. At least one. Just at least. At least one. When y'all are, having to deal with all stress and you can't really handle it properly. My advice is slow down and eventually get to a good stopping point and take a break. Yes, you might feel like you can't take a break. You might feel like, oh, if I don't get this done, if I don't get this done, I'll get in trouble, or I won't get paid, and I won't be able to pay my bills or whatnot. Well, keep this in mind. The job that you're working and the work that you're doing, it's not going to be as good since you're stressed out, right? I bet you. Alright? Just think rationally, alright? Because another thing about, stress, you don't really think clearly enough, right? You're always focusing on the bad. But just think clearly for a second, right? You may feel like you can't stop. You may feel like you just can't have a break or have a Kit Kat, That was a cheesy joke, I'm sorry. But you may feel like you can't stop. But think rationally and think clearly. Just take a break, right? Take a day off of your work, or at least just spend an hour. Not 30 minutes, not 15 minutes, you need an hour. Heck, spend more. Just having some alone time, right? Do whatever you like. I mean, if you don't have anything that you like, just go on your phone and watch YouTube or something like that. Or meditation is really good. Meditation is really good. Just sitting alone in silence with your thoughts. It may seem boring at first, but Trust me, it can get you in a trance. And if you really can't take a break, just please go through, like, keep on toughing on what you're doing, and either get done with your work, or, you know, or eventually come across a good stopping point where you can just take your break. So that's how I figured you deal with stress. Thank y'all for listening. See y'all later.